So I'd love to end on how teens can get involved in women in politics and hopefully advance the gender agenda as they come up in their professional or even political careers.
I love to teach at Rutgers and work with undergraduates. And I think that for all young people, it can be intimidating to get involved in politics. And I think that's especially true for women and women of color, students of color, that how, where you get started. But I think that the payoff is fantastic and the opportunities are there. Sometimes people who are established in their political careers, they don't always they aren't always as welcoming as they should be, and partly that's because young people are so talented, and they need to get their start someplace, and generationally people may have different interests, and that's reason to get involved, that young people today have maybe different issues at stake than the people who have been in politics for decades, who are a generation or two ahead of them. So there are definitely obstacles to overcome there. And so, what I encourage everyone to do, and especially young women, is to get involved in something that you care about. Get behind a
Mm.
candidate that appeals to you, get some campaign experience. One of the advantages that young people have is that they may be mobile, and they may have time. If they don't have families yet, they could throw themselves into a campaign, and campaigns always need volunteers. You hear that from elected officials all the time to get involved in a campaign. Issues also, there's so many different entry points to different political issues. And I know that this is a part of your podcast, is to get young people thinking about different issues. So there's so many ways to get involved in those issues, at the grassroots level, with national organizations, so many volunteer opportunities across the board. I think for women, especially, they don't always see themselves as leaders or candidates. And so I think part of what everyone can do is to cultivate women for electoral politics at a young age and help them see themselves as potential candidates. This is true of all, I think all young people should think about how they could get involved and contribute to society, and whether they could make a difference by being a candidate. We do know that women historically have been less likely to aspire to be a candidate because it
Mm.
hasn't been a path that is female dominated. Women are more likely to be drawn into politics. They're more likely to be recruited for a seat, or they get involved in an issue and then they realize that the most important way to affect that issue is to be the decision maker as opposed to be on the outside. So I think that
Mm.
getting behind candidates that you care about, supporting women candidates across the two parties, are great ways to get involved.
Great advice. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us to empower young women with the idea that they can be in politics. It is a feasible road. There's far more vehicles to help you get there, like with Women Who Run. And I know there are a lot of other organizations that work focus on prepping and preparing women for candidacy and for governing. That you can do it. It is an option. We shouldn't think that it's a male only profession to go into. I want
Absolutely.
I want to end on one thing that you talked about, and this is the final series of our students talking about things that they're passionate about, and then having thought leaders like yourself share your perspectives as well. And what seems to be the theme over pretty much all the episodes we've done, voting rights, access to care, all of our experts like yourself have talked about the local level and the importance of local level or state level politics. And that's where the power is, like you said, where issues can really be advocated for and shaped and implemented to have the greatest effect on the individual experiencing, whether it's voter disenfranchisement or access to healthcare, the healthcare system, the collaboration between healthcare and government. And I just want to like hone in on that again, that it's not a national level that feels unreachable or not penetrable to make a change, that any student who is passionate about this issue or anything else, it's a local level, whether you're advocating for it or you're running as a legislator or governing official to really make an impact. And that seems, at least to me, and I'm not a teenager, seems more achievable and more realistic to actually make an impact and advocate for social justice issues. So I appreciate you bringing that up and reinforcing that aspect that it's not just one issue. There are many issues that lie at the state level.
Yeah, and partly that's because, as you've probably talked about on other podcasts, federalism, that there is a role that state and localities play. These are all shared powers, but you could think of any issue where there's some probably local or state aspect to it. It's more accessible. And you do, in politics, you do have to do a little bit of, getting experience, building your qualifications, building your network, getting to know
Mhm.
people. And states are political systems. So each state has its own political culture, has its own network of folks, and federal officials are tied into that. But those federal officials came from someplace, they came from these states and localities. And so it is an overlooked aspect of getting involved. I think when we hear from local elected officials, including some of the women who speak at our events, they talk about the rewards of being at the local level. Knowing, you're representing people in your communities, and that's where you live, and you can see right away, you can see the impact that you're having on people's lives, and so it can
Mhm.
be an incredibly rewarding place to get involved.
Perfect.